So,
All
you're
right.
the host of the Ass Takin Names podcast.
Yes. Yep.
First of all, why? Why did you decide to become a podcaster? Why did you decide to enter such a saturated market, as a lot of people say now?
Yeah. So when I did it, it wasn't out of like any kind of significant need to be like a big podcaster. It was more of a sorry, excuse me. I just had like a desire to do it,
Hmm.
and I just was excited, and I just was like, this is an idea. Like it just popped up one day, and I just saw like a vision of myself. I was like, I don't know what happened. I almost was like a divine vision of like, this is just like what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then I just jumped on it, and then so to recap, because I know we're gonna post this episode instead, we both did one, but I'm still practicing. So but basically I started with the idea. I got the logo. I said, okay, like kicking ass, taking names, like it's a cool name. It's a throwback to like the 50s, ode to like the 50s when people used to say that.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then I got the logo done. I already worked on Fiverr, so I already knew a bunch of Fiverr creators and stuff like that. Got the logo done within like a day. Within 3 days, I had the logo, the like page up, everything going. And I already did my first podcast. So within a week, I did probably like 3 podcasts.
Oh, wow.
I did 4 in my first like probably week or a week and a half, and I didn't slow down ever since I slowed down more like 4 months ago, but now I'm picking back up.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up just filming after film, but I had a big hiccup early on in the podcast. I don't know if I brought this up last time.
I don't think so.
That early in the podcast, when I started, I had 4 episodes filmed with a company that shall not be named. And the company that shall not be named still owns my first 4 episodes ever. So I tried to buy it from them, and then they said, no, we don't want to put stuff out there in the world that we don't feel proud of or whatever. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Those were amazing podcasts. My guests, it was almost like a huge punch in the face, because my first 4 guests, like I got the biggest names I could locally.
Yeah.
And they were just, I was like, dude, can you, like, I even had a pro boxer, Rai Salim. We still haven't refilmed that one. So when I go to
Really?
Vegas next month for the podcast tour, we might get him on as well, depending on his schedule, and film another one with him. But we've had some big names, and it's gotten bigger and bigger. But though that first hiccup was started the podcast, this guy's like, I want 90% of your podcast. I'm like, dude, like, for what? Like, are you paying for marketing? Are you paying for editing? Are you paying for the studio time? No.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So literally all he did was show up and push record. And I told him that. I said, all you're doing is showing up and pushing record. And you're not like, it's not like we're at that level yet,
Right.
you know, where you're like all these different camera angles and this. It's just one camera, push record. The mic was already attached to the camera. Like, he didn't even
Right.
have to edit that. Like, now I know a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like even more ridiculous. So he's like, yeah, that's how it is. And like 90-10 split. I'm like, I've never even, it's like honestly,
That's
even,
ridiculous.
even if you want to own something, that's just not how business works. Like,
No.
you don't even say it unless you're legitimately trying to offend somebody.
Oh, yeah.
That's like offensive.
You get
Like,
someone
even if
else's-
somebody does like almost nothing, their face being like, that's not even worth 20% to you. What the hell? So
like taking that is like, well, I'll give you just enough to be able to say
Yeah.
that you like own
Yeah,
a little
and
bit,
you know what?
but
At the end of the day, like, my parents taught me, like, turn the other cheek, keep pushing,
yeah.
prove people wrong. And then since then, you know, like, didn't even have a podcast, and today we just filmed with Jeremy Lee Miners. We've had Jeremy Lee Miners, Evan Carmichael, Eric Anders, UFC fighter, like Cody Sperber, real estate, Brandon Carter. We just went to Miami, did Brandon Carter. Like, we're working on some big names in Vegas, some big names in LA, some people that I like are famous. We're working on all that stuff right now. So, and it's still
Okay.
small. It's still like small, but yeah, I had another second wind, I would say, in these last few months where I kind of slowed down. I think the last podcast I was doing good, but I was kind of like drained and exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I've had my revitalization, whatever. Like, I have a second wind, and I'm really excited. And we just got back from Miami. We're going to LA. We're going to Vegas, all that stuff. So that's kind of how it's been going so far. And learning how to figure out how to like monetize and starting to make a little bit of money off the podcast, but not really.
Yeah.
But that's not the point of it, right? Like, I opened up certain sponsored spots, and people can go on as a sponsor, but it's definitely not something where I make it like anybody can go on. It's like there's a bar,
Right.
and if you want to be on and you're gonna be a sponsor, like, you better support us like a sponsor. So if you're gonna do that, then the price is not gonna be cheap, and I did that on purpose because I don't want. First off, I spent a lot. Like, if you know how much I spent on the episodes in Miami, it's 4 figures per episode. So
Wow.
it's a lot, right? And then we're putting in like SEO. We're putting in like we're building like a team now. So like for people who have no brand, no presence, if I want to interview you, that's different. But if I
Right.
don't have an interest in interviewing you, I'm not gonna just go up to you and just be like, hey, let me just give you like thousands of dollars worth of free stuff,
Right.
like, and you have nothing in return. That's not how the world works, and that's why I also say, like, doing a podcast, I started realizing so many different things, like, in the past year. Like, I get to interview, I get to learn. You grow as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you probably have noticed it. Like, you're almost like, dude, I don't know how much I didn't listen until I started that podcast. And you have to listen, you have to learn, and then you have to like take in this information. You have to study.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to become a better person as the podcast goes on. And then after like a while, I started realizing it's even bigger. I'm like, I get to meet some of my like heroes, and I get to interview people that I really look up to. And then it became like, now I'm like really on this mission to interview the guys that I grew up. Like, that was like my new mission, is like interview the guys like I grew up loving watching, like in person, like the guys that were like super big time. And I'm like, dude, now they could come to me now possibly.
Yeah.
Like, it's not right now reality. Like, it's still happening, but it could happen.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of how that goes.
Heck yeah. I know. There was, at first, I wanted to kind of have bigger and just like be amazing right off the bat. I'll be honest, I'm really glad that I started the way I did because of those reps. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't, like, it takes a very specific personality, a very specific kind of person to be
Yeah.
able to get right out of the gate and be the best Joe Rogan podcaster in the
Yeah.
world or something. Like,
Yeah.
for him, he's been doing this for thousands and thousands of
Times,
episodes.
yeah.
And like, it sounds easy, but then the second you get on,
You
you get
hear?
in front of,
Yeah.
you get in front of the chair, you get in front of the microphone, you get in front of the camera and everything.
Oh,
Your
yeah.
mind goes blank sometimes.
Yeah.
And the amount of times that like, I'll do, if I don't really know the person,
You've had
I'll
some-
take down some notes. That way I'm like, there's no such thing as dead space when you're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
It's not like a regular conversation to where you can kind of just sit there, twiddle your thumbs a little bit,
Mhm.
or like not really pay attention. There cannot be dead space or else you lose viewers and stuff.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to learn how to gain retention. You have to learn what are going to be some good things to talk about, and then having your niche. And
If you have like a really tough episode, you can get editors to cut space out. I've done that before. But overall, it's not the best go-to strategy, right? So
yeah, I don't know. I've never, I think there's only been like 1 or 2 episodes I've never not released, mostly because I also, I don't want them to feel disrespected.
yeah.
I don't want the person, like, they took time out of their day to come here for an hour or something
I've
and
had
do that.
one I haven't released yet.
Yeah.
But my first guests, they didn't even know if I was going to release. Like, my first 10 guests, I don't think I released any episodes for the first like 8 months.
Really?
Like, at all. Like, I just waited till I had a backlog because I
Mhm.
wanted to shoot them all out. But once I started getting them out, then they're like, oh, okay. Because people were like, are you just filming and wasting people's time? Like, I was getting the shorts out.
Yeah.
So they were getting some value out of it. But
Okay.
so, like, I mean, if I post your short, you're going to be on. Like, I had one guy that I just, he kind of got lost in the equation of building this stuff. And I don't say that lightly. It was more of like an intentional, like, kind of, I'm building a second season.
Right.
So he's been waiting maybe a month and a half. That's like long for him, for anybody. But I don't typically do that. But right now I have like a short break because I'm launching a new season and stuff, and we're making a lot of changes, and we just don't want to like spend money
Right.
to promote before we change these things so that we can get the viewership off the promotion. But at the end of the day, everybody's pretty much getting posted. Usually, like, the fastest episodes we've got posted within 2 weeks or so.
That's a hell of a lot quicker than mine, but at the same time, I've seen the differences in the startups for us. Like, I haven't invested as much monetarily as you've invested with, like, you have like a full studio space, a good camera setup. Like,
Yeah.
It's a lot. I would say it's a lot more professional. For me, mine's 100% bootstrapped. It was
Yeah.
whatever
But I
little
think it's the
cash.
same, like, because you can make, even you can get bigger than mine, and bigger than a lot of people's, just by doing like the audio
Yeah,
and the audio
yeah.
stuff. To be honest, dude, you're beating me on audio because I haven't uploaded. We're getting into Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I just have been reluctant. I don't know what it is, and I know I need to.
It's tough.
But that one, maybe I'll even ask you some stuff about that. But
Yeah,
when I upload on that one, I want to, like, I don't know how it works or the algorithms.
yeah.
I'm always scared of algorithms because I want to make sure when I upload the algorithm, like, I just don't miss it. Like right now we're doing SEO on our old videos.
Mm.
I wish we would have been doing SEO. Like if you haven't invested in SEO, it's not expensive. You could get guys to do it for like $10 a video, and it's gonna make a huge difference in your YouTube, like,
It's
views.
just it's so hard with that initial investment into everything.
Everything, yeah.
That's why like the podcasts that you see that are super popular and stuff. Typically, they have some sort of good initial injection of
Team,
funds.
studio,
They have
funds, yeah.
like anyone that you see. There's not a lot of people out there that just bootstrap it, get whatever microphone they can, stuff, and just start. They're like, oh, I'm gonna wait until I have $10,000 to drop,
Yeah.
get some good microphones, get a good editor, do this. Like I don't want to. I have a good idea for a podcast, but I don't want to do it until I can have this. And for me, I didn't want to have to wait. I didn't want to be that guy that's like I'm waiting for opportunity to come to
Yeah.
me.
But now you have a reason to grind.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
Now it's like, and I've had some upgrades and stuff. Obviously,
Yeah.
this is a hell of a lot. It's one of those things. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm a hell of a lot farther than I
Than if you
was.
didn't start. And you know
Yeah.
what? I was
I'm
just
gonna
on a
move this
podcast.
closer to you right
Oh,
there.
yeah, I was just on a podcast today with Jeremy Lee Miners, and you know what he said? And he was quoting someone else as well, but he said that the path to tomorrow is never, because tomorrow never comes. When you want to do something, you have to do it today.
Mm-hmm.
Because the path, like literally, when you say tomorrow, it's just you going into a direction where you're never gonna end up starting.
Right.
So you honestly are better off starting poorly, because everything starts poorly. When I first did my episodes, I had super bad habits. Like I would like pick at my
Mhm.
face, and I'd like clench my teeth. And I still have little things now, but it's like I'm kind of more like adjusting,
Yeah.
because I go, like, I'll hit the gym a lot, and I'll be like, I need more magnesium or something. I'm like, oh, like I need to stretch. So like in my episodes, I'll just like stretch or move or like readjust myself.
Yeah.
I do that a lot, but it's always kind of more like adjustment. Okay, sit for like 2-3 minutes, 5 minutes. Adjustment, because I hate sitting still.
Yeah.
But I like to talk. I like to converse, and I like straight talk. I don't like conversations that are small talk, which is why I started my show the way it is, because we don't do really much small talk. We'll open, like, I'll build rapport with people, but
Yeah.
I'll talk about their family. I'll talk about random stuff, and it
Mhm.
looks, at first I thought that's so like pointless, but it helps a lot. Like, because some guests you have to, like, you'll probably get this if you get like to a point where you interview somebody you look up to, or
Mhm.
you're like you watched as a kid, or like someone big time. You'll start to notice, like, you get this like false stage of stardom, because really they're there to like inspire you, and they're not there to, they might be there for their content, but they're not there to like go against you. They're really they're advocates for you, but you got to be responsible for their time and their attention, because you brought them there.
I've been noticing in a lot of the bigger podcasts that I've been listening to, because that's one of the best ways that I learn how to do better on mine, is I listen to these
Mhm.
bigger podcasts to see what they're doing. Because obviously they're still getting the retention, they're still getting the views, they're still up there. For them, because I was the same way, I hate small talk. Even in like personal relationships
Yeah.
with anybody, for me, I'm like, if you're gonna do small talk, you're not gonna hear from me, because I don't have time or energy to just bullshit like that. For me, I'm
Mhm.
like, small talk is pointless. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about aliens. Let's talk about the craziest shit out there. But a lot of these podcasts, I've been, at least in the beginning, because it is a little bit more of a normal part of the conversation, they do include some small talk. And for me, as a viewer, I didn't even realize, like, I just kind of like this, because it adds a little bit of more of a human factor. It adds less of a scripted show feel, and more of just like, oh, it's just they're coming on just to talk. They're coming on just to share their brain and stuff. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, I just don't think you can always indie it. Sometimes you're like, the bigger you get, I feel like you will have to have some sort of commercialized, like, it's just kind of impossible, because if somebody's known for something,
Mm-hmm.
you want to talk to them about that, and they've talked about it a million times. There's not much you can do except for be like a platform for what they want to talk about, and you can't change that. You can really only ask better questions.
Right.
You can ask better questions, and you can be unique, and you can be extremely like, you just have to be unique about the way that you're doing things. Leveling up as a person is the most important thing, right? Like, when I level up and I learn from these guys and I study their material and I do that, like, I'm a totally different person from when for me, I'm a totally different person today than I was like a year ago. And I would say I didn't even realize how insecure I had, still a lot of insecurities a year ago. And I felt like a very secure guy a year ago, but I didn't know how much, like, there's levels to things. Like,
Oh yeah.
I might have gotten far compared to where I was,
Mm-hmm.
because I was like a very insecure kid, very insecure. Like, even though I was always like, driven to be the best, it's like kind of driven to be the best, but not really at that level. You're just always just thinking about that level, wanting to be that level, entrepreneur, whatever. Like, kind of, and it's still to this day. I can imagine that me in like a year or 2 years will be like totally different.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel more secure in like who I am, like what I'm accomplishing in life. And a huge part of my vision and my passion is to like inspire, spread good, teach others, like, because and I was on the podcast. I'll refer this because it's real life today. I was on a podcast with Jeremy, and he said that other people or smart people learn from their mistakes, but smarter people learn from others' mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's funny because that's something my dad always told me. So it's like kind of like I know like some of this wisdom is passed around like person to person, but really, how do you apply it? How do you apply this wisdom? How do you use the stuff that people talk about in all these podcasts? Because if you just do the podcast and you just listen to stuff and you don't apply it, makes it a lot harder for you to really see like the benefit and the wisdom behind it. So I've had the chance of like, or the mindset of like every podcast, when I bring somebody on and they tell me something, my theme of my life until the next podcast is like what they told me. Like, that's the last information I learned. So now when I have a mindset about when I try something, I use the mindset from where they were at, and I use what I learned from being around them. And sometimes you just absorb their energy,
Right.
and it's just with you for like a week or forever or whatever. Like, you could just have energy that's from that person. So I absorbed that, and now I have that in me. And like, I notice myself telling other people things and advice that's not really even me talking. It's like all combination, all these other people talking through you.
That is, I think, even personally for me, one of the best parts about doing this too is I get to interact with the person, but then I get to also just learn from them and carry that wisdom along for myself too. And I don't know, there's no price on wisdom.
Yeah.
So for me to be able to sit down and almost in a selfish way just ask everything I possibly can, pick their brain and stuff, but try to not be. It is kind of hard to not be generic sometimes.
Yeah.
I'll admit, like,
I want to create something for podcasting. Like, people, once I get this further on, I want to do something to help other podcasts. I might even do like a $50 course or something small. Like,
yeah.
Just
Well, and that's honestly, I like learning from other people that have bootstrapped. I don't like learning from people that are like, oh yeah, I started this thing with like all my savings at $100,000 and I put it in. I'm like, well, $100,000 can get you a lot.
yeah,
That can get you like a year-long lease somewhere, plus a good equipment, plus this, and then especially like if this is your full-time thing, you have that time. For me, this is still not my full-time gig at all.
Yeah.
This is still very much a part-time gig.
Yeah,
And so,
it's so you'll fluctuate between being in it and then
Mhm.
working on other stuff.
yeah.
Like, I'm working on other stuff because I decided I didn't want the podcast to be the like main source of income, because then I'm going to get commission breath when I
Right.
talk to people. Like, so it's not like my goal is not to make all this money, but I would like one day soon, and actually I can't say even one day. I think that's something that someone told me. Don't say one day.
Yeah.
I would say I would like as soon as possible to have it be self-sufficient, like at the minimum. And that's a goal for this year. That's actually a realistic goal I have written down for this year.
Okay.
Not and that's actually the goal for this year is like figure out how to generate $50,000 income through this. How? Maybe it's going to be like
Say
that
15 or 50?
50.
Okay.
Because I make my goal big enough that it challenges me, but small enough that I feel like it's attainable.
Yeah.
I feel as though 4,000 a month through this is possible somehow this year. Now, I don't have to be trending at it like right now, but I would like to figure out. So I actually hit my goal for last month.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just having the intention, like I hit the goal for last month. It was unreal, but it did bring me in enough for that. Like, so I have to do another 11 months. Now February is going to be a lot tougher. I'm like, how do I bring that and do that again? So I'm looking at that as okay, what other types of like partnership, sponsorship, opportunities do I have to have? What kind of business does it have to be in order to sustain? Like, because you could do a million, you could sell 1 million people for $1 to make $1 million, or you could sell one deal for $1 million commission, and
Right.
sell like one $10 million deal and you make 10%. But that at the end of the day, like you really have to look at like what's real for you, what's like reasonable for you, because someone might be better off doing one deal for 1 million, and somebody else might be better off doing 1 million, helping 1 million people with like $1.
Right.
So like when I think of my like the show going on and stuff, realistic part of that is also the future. Part of it is also like self, like fulfilling the position of like making revenue by this time, goals, set timeline, date. What do I have to have? What kind of branding kits do I have? What kind of like material do we need to showcase? So we're working on some really cool stuff. I'll tell you after this, like strategy wise that I've learned, that I just did not have that mindset when I first started. And I'm okay with that, because it takes time, it takes effort, it takes it takes just repetition. And then you get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm in it now. I understand the mindset. And then you start learning more, and you think everything is like whatever. When you're not doing it, you think it's like, oh, it's a podcast. Like when you're in it, then you're like, okay, there's this, there's that. But it's anything for any job. Like I'm sure if I were to say like, oh, I want to become a nail technician, like start a nail salon, I'm sure I'd be like, oh, it's so easy. We just get a nail salon, start an Instagram page, start doing, posting on social media, put like some cute graphics, and, hit up some girls or dudes or whoever wants to get their nails done, and boom. That's like, but actually there's probably a whole, and I know this because, I mean, next month I'll go to this business conference that they have every business like in a box, and
Oh, wow.
and it's a multi-unit like franchises or businesses in a box that you can just buy for $150,000 buy-in.
Oh, wow.
50
Okay.
grand fee. Like, oh, you want to buy a dry cleaners, you want to buy if you want to buy like a KFC or something, like a restaurant. They're all going to be there, and you recognize every single business, every single thing has specific metrics, guidelines, marketing manuals, like plan, a marketing plan, sales plans, like area demographic, who's our target. They have all that stuff. So you've got to start narrowing down. Like what I've noticed a lot of times, like men ages 25 to 45 like to listen to my stuff.
Yeah.
Men in the USA ages 25 to 40. Men in the USA that are interested in entrepreneurship, real estate, a lot of real estate business, like real estate guys, because I just started with some big names in real estate early on, but also just because like how many people are in that in my demographic, or that are, a lot of them are doing some form of real estate. So I almost incorporate like, okay, if I were to do this long, and I'm working on this long term, the podcast part of the strategy could be also like, what are we going to provide for all our viewers that are watching, that are interested in or involved in real estate? Because we've pulled in people that have said like, hey, I do real estate, I want to be promotion, I want to promote on your network, whatever, stuff like that. So someone might say that, whatever you do, and then you're looking at it like, okay, now I didn't even know that was there, but that's part of my viewership. So I should cater to that as well, because that's people who like me. That's what they want from what I'm saying or what I'm doing. So that's also like a big part of it, is understanding your market too.
I think one of the biggest questions, especially lately, that I'm asked by everyone who like approaches me about it is about getting the guests that I have on. You kind of started right out of the bat with getting some pretty decent names and stuff, and you've always, pretty much almost all of your guests have been pretty big people, pretty big followings and stuff, at least in their niches. Maybe they're not like the most trending person in the world, but in their niche, they're pretty popular.
Yeah.
So what's your process of kind of like booking somebody for, especially of like higher caliber?
So when you start, you've got to think about it like, where am I at and where are they at and what are they going to respond to? Because if I were to send somebody like, hey, I got a podcast, you want to be on? They might reply. If they're a big enough account, they're not going to reply. But if they're a small enough account that they're willing to go on like a pod that just is your random and you have no context or no pitch or no, like, think about it in terms of sales. Like if you were to do a sales pitch, if you just go to somebody and say like, hey, I just want to sell you this, $500 bottle of tequila. Do you want it? You're not going to just say like, yeah. You're going to be like, what? I don't know anything about that. Like,
Right.
That has nothing to do with anything. I'm like, am I in the market? Am I already interested in it? What am I going to respond to? So I just did a podcast, like, and again, I relate to everything to what I'm doing now as well. I just spoke to Jeremy. He says, and he talks about the sorry, 1 second. Dude, it's such a like long word, but neuro, NEPQ, neuro, dude, I just did this whole thing right now. Neuro, whatever, linguist or not linguistic, but persuasion question. I forgot what the E stands for, and that's probably because I've just finished with the pod, and I was like, I'm thinking so fast.
Yeah.
But essentially, his persuasion questioning style is that you want to appeal to somebody's human side, emotional side, before you ask for anything, because you're not gonna get something from anyone if you sound like everybody else, if you look like, if you're just like the same. You have to appeal to that side of the person and that side of the brain that they don't access regularly. It's subconscious. And how do you do that? You have the right tonality in the way that you write your messaging. You have the right approach. And also, from my own experience, it's about everything. You can get as much as you want and more if you focus on quality. Quality is probably like the equivalent of quantity to quality, because quantity could get up. You could increase your quantity or quality by doing a lot of quantity, but you can't increase just because you get better. But you can't increase your quality very quickly at all without focusing on quality. Like you have to focus on the quality of what you're doing. What do you do differently? What do you provide? Like there's guys that I'm working on right now that there's no chance I'll get until I improve my quality. I know that. So it's not like a time frame. I've been doing this 5 years. Yeah, but if you're doing it in the same place where you started, you're clearly not evolving. Right? So evolve as a person, evolve your process, evolve your systems, evolve your money, evolve your mindset, evolve who you are. Like the fastest way to get to money is to improve yourself, not to focus on money.
Right.
The fastest way to grow your bank account is to grow yourself. When you work on your self-education, when you invest in yourself, when you invest in removing your past traumas, removing your past, things that were blocking you, when you invest in future development of who you want to be, who do you want to be around, the power of being in a network, people who you're around are going to be a huge influence on who you are. Like, be around those people that are going to influence you in such a positive way. Be the most broke, be the most weak, be the whatever in the biggest room possible. Don't be afraid to be around girls that intimidate you. Be around people who are intimidating in a good way, like success intimidating.
I like being around that because it challenges you. It makes you realize that you're at the bottom of the barrel and like you're not the top shot there. You're the one that you should be listening. Like that's how all the greatest companies that I've seen have grown. Is like I've surrounded myself with everyone that's better than me in all this.
Yeah.
I have my own specialty, but I know that I can't take on that's kind of like my issue right now with the podcast, and everything else is like I try to wear every single hat at once versus wearing the hat I specialize in.
What you should do is you should take a percentage of the budget or whatever, and you should have the stuff that you really know slows you down, really isn't efficient for you, just is like really a pain in the butt. And you should find someone and go on Upwork, go on Fiverr, go on whatever. You can hire people overseas and find and hire people for the specific role that you need for a good price that can do some of that stuff for you. And even though you're spending some money, this is a big part of what you plan on doing in the future. You're really committed for the long term, then you got to invest. Nobody gets anywhere without investing. So just take a percentage of it and say like, hey, I need somebody who can do this, this, and this. That's your job. You do that excellent. Here's what you're going to get. And you take that off your plate so you can focus more and you have more bandwidth to focus on the stuff you want to do. And it could be as simple as hiring editors or hiring a booking assistant or hiring whatever. And, also too, back to your question of how I got people that I got on, it's quality, but also when you get to a certain point, people who might hear about you, there might be people now, there's services where they'll like say, I book people on podcasts. Like there's people who do that now. And so they want you to be part of their list of shows. So if you get on those lists, then it's great because then you are now on their potential list of where they send guests to because they know you're going to produce quality. If you don't produce quality, you're never going to get on those lists. But if you get on those lists, you'll have, like I have, I don't know if I want to, I have some people's personal numbers that I'm not going to say names because I don't want to ruin my chances of getting them or whatever. Just like, I don't know what I just don't want to like advertise falsely or whatever. But I have people's numbers, personal numbers, cell numbers of big names of people that you've seen online that I haven't had on my show, like bigger than who I've had, that I'm like waiting for the day to like, how do I present? Like I'm still presenting, but I'm like, how do I present? How do I improve? And then like, I will get them. And that's not even like a question. It's like, at some point you will hear about me and you will know like this guy's not going away. So I better just get on a show. Cause like I told him like, you're getting on my show. Like, I'm sorry. Like I'm going to be as hospitable and I'm going to be as professional. I'm going to keep leveling up, but you're going to get on my show one day. Cause if you're not, like all your friends and everybody you know is going to be on the show.
You're going to be the only one now.
That didn't. Yeah. So that mindset helps a lot. I'm very stubborn. I'm very competitive. I have like I feel like I have a very powerful mindset, but it's also it's the best and the worst because if I'm confident, I feel like I'm unstoppable. And if my mind somehow turns inward against myself and I get anxiety, I get like super worrisome anxiety. Like it's so weird. I have two different personalities, man. And it's like, for me, just getting this personality so much stronger than the other, right? They say you have two wolves inside of you and you decide which one you want to feed. The wolf that is the wolf of fear or the wolf of like success, of a determination, of ambition and drive, or do you want to go down that route of like anxiety, depression, whatever? So you got to choose every day, and I just choose by telling myself, right? Like I used to be, and I'm short, but like one of my limiting beliefs was like, I'm short. Oh, like if I want people to like me, I should like let them make fun of the fact that I'm short. And then I'll just be like, oh, haha, it's all cool. But now when you really don't have the insecurity, because people use that all the time. When you don't have the insecurity, it's almost like you're almost kind of like, you hear it and you're like, okay, so like that used to have like a grip on me, but now it's almost like you accept everything. You accept yourself how you are. So you're like, yeah, I'm like, God made me that way. And at the end of the day, like there's no, like I genuinely don't know how to process that and have like a negative reaction to somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know how to anymore because I've completely just accepted and I'm just like, yeah, like I want to I like challenges. So I'm like, dude, throw that at me. Like put it in the comments. Like if you're watching this and you think it's a great interview, comment you're short. Like that's like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's like you take that and you're like, dude, do that because like at the end of the day, you're a human being like everybody else. You're just trying, like, but the only thing you have control over is really just how hard you freaking try and grind and push and want it. Like, do you want it bad enough to take action? Because you could want it bad, but you won't want it bad enough to take action. So I think you just got to get to that level where it just burns your skin, like, and you just can't take it that you're not doing something, and you have to get to the point where it burns too much. You actually start moving, because right now your hand's on the fire and you're not actually doing anything about it. Yeah. That's what everybody who's doing this. I want to start a podcast. I want, like, start the crappiest, like, start with, like, I'm going to have the crappiest podcast. Like, cool. Evan Carmichael told me he didn't even watch his first 300 episodes. I haven't even watched.
Where I started?
Yeah, I haven't even watched, like, a bunch of my episodes back, like, fully, to be honest. Like, do I watch them? Yeah, but do I watch them all, like, fully? No. Like, I see them and I'm like, I have, like, less of a cringe every day. And then I'm just like, okay, I'm getting better, I guess, right? Like, that's all that matters, really. Because I used to get so, like, for the first 6 months, I didn't even know if I was going to release an episode. I was so nervous. I knew I was, but I was so nervous releasing the first episode. It's like, oh,
I haven't listened to a full episode. Because I'm the editor for mine as well, and I'm the one that creates the shorts. I'm the one that does it all.
Tough, dude.
I have to go back through, and I have to, like,
which is good for you.
Watch a lot of it, so I get to kind of. That's also the way that I get to, like, watch myself, and I get to be like, okay, well, I do this a lot. I do this a lot. I do this a lot. I say this a lot, and it's kind of like mental notes for me to be able to continuously improve.
And you'll improve way faster than probably even I do, because I've done less of these than you. If you think about it, I've had 26 or something episodes filmed. I'm going to be at like 28 by like the end of this.
I'm about to be approaching 50.
Yeah. So you're like double the amount in, like, how long have you been doing this?
I think for me, it's been approximately somewhere between 9 and 11 months.
Yeah. So you did double the amount in the same amount of time, maybe a little bit shorter actually of time. So you're doing like 2.2 speed of what I've done. So you're going to have more skill in podcasting if you continue.
You have the higher quality, but and like, I don't mean,
I mean,
this
the
in,
real
like,
test for you will be how do you deal with the pressure of very specific guests?
Yeah.
If you ever have a guest, because you could choose not to.
Yeah.
You're the indie style. If you ever have a guest that puts, like, so much emphasis on their time, their name is out there, you have to be very responsible for how you communicate to them, what you say to them, and what are you going to get out of that episode?
I feel like I've kind of reached near that with a couple, because I've had on an MLB player, I've had on a professional cheerleader, I've had on some pretty big business people.
Who's like a business, like, you mean like in Scottsdale, like people here?
Yeah,
locally?
just like entrepreneurs and stuff.
Yeah. That'd be cool. You know what you should do is get everybody in, like, a Facebook group.
I know that I think we talked about it briefly in the first version, but I know a lot of people are going to be kind of wanting to know from you. Obviously, you invested quite a bit into yours, like thousands, a lot of money and stuff. Like, how were you able to do that? Was it just like you had a day job, you saved up a bunch of money? Because I know that there are some.
Believe it or not, I'm really good at negotiating. So when I first started, I had the story was I had a guy. I was just gonna rent the room. The room rental alone was only $40 an hour for a really nice room. So I got an hour for a podcast, and then I found a guy and I said, hey, we're gonna partner. You're not gonna charge me. We're gonna build this together. I have a vision. I'm really serious about my vision. I know I can do it. And he's like, okay, we'll do some pilot episodes and we'll see how it goes. Mm-hmm. So my cost was going to be super low because he's going to edit whatever is going to be like $40 an episode, which would have been like for the quality and everything. Now that was a different quality because the quality I'm getting today is better. Mm. But like when I was there, it was great for like starting out, like awesome for starting out quality. And I'll actually show you a video of it. But the guy ended up saying he wanted 90%, and it's not like we sat down and we're like, I was just like, whatever, I'll buy you lunch or something, which I don't even know why. I was just trying to win favor. And it just ended up being like such a like example of just people taking and not giving. Mm. Like I was in a very like I'm in a giving, mode. I was like, how could we work together, right? Like I would have already probably had way more issues, to be honest, if we didn't have a problem, because there would have been probably more time, effort put on like chasing them down for the clips, the quality of the edits. I wouldn't have done it as much myself. So when things fall apart, sometimes it's the best, because then if they fall apart, you rebuild them back way better the second time, and it's just more powerful. And I just like took all of the frustration, and I had like two choices, like either prove them wrong or prove them right. Like they took all my episodes, it was gone. I either prove them right or I prove them wrong, and I decided to prove them wrong. And I was like, okay, well, now I really have motivation to kick your ass. Like, not physically, although I'd love to, but like, you know, and this goes back to this insecure person just trying to like early on drag me down. I'm like, well, now I've already dealt with like a big blow to my show, because it was a big deal. Everything was a big deal back then. I was like, oh, like now I'd probably deal with that. I'd be like, oh, whatever. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I'll get a new whatever. I have options of this and this and this and whatever. But back then I was like, oh, my dream is gonna be destroyed, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I have to just put a little bit more money and whatever. And luckily, AZ Pod Studio, they saw it going down, and they and like Martin, and shout out Martin at AZ Pod, if you're an AZ, great studio. I was gonna tell you, you should like look at potentially working with them one day if you ever need, because they'll handle everything for you. Martin was there, and he just saw, and he's like, dude, I feel bad. He's like, I'll help you catch up. Like, I'll help you get a little bit, like, you know, going. But after a certain point, you know, these are going to be the rates. And we just decided to work it out. And, you know, I kind of also got a good rate, and then got, like, kind of grandfathered in. And so, like, I didn't spend too much at first. But then it got to the point where I was getting bigger names and this and that. And I'm like, and even recently, I just decided to, like, double down, which meant literally monetarily doubling the money. And I'm lucky enough that I made some money through the pod, but not a lot, but enough that, like, okay, I'll just put, like, each of these new episodes, like, we're putting more and we're investing more. But I've maxed out credit cards. Yeah, like, yeah, you know, it's just like, and then, you know, obviously, if you have family and people, you can ask for a loan, do that, because there's nothing wrong with that. If your family supports you and you know people, I have had a friend who told me, he's like, dude, if you need money, I'll invest in your show. I believe in it. And I was like, no, dude, I don't want to like bring friends in right now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to do that. I think I can do it. Like, with what I have now, I think we can turn it into money from itself now.
So where does the money originally come from for you, though, to be able to invest so much into your podcast?
So I mean, originally, credit cards and family investment, which I think is super helpful, because if you have a supportive family, but if you don't have that, then you just have to like specifically work on the days. Most people are not gonna probably try to do the same pod as me. Like I've talked to my studios, and they're like, yeah, you bring some of the biggest guests that we have, like, in general. But most people are not gonna probably have that dream of, like, you know, so it's like you can keep your costs super low if you did it a different way than I did it. You spend a lot less. So, but also too, I'm really good at finding and arbitraging like a lot of stuff. Like, I'll find people to do anything for super good price, like a super low price. Like, dude, I mean, I know people who spent like $5,000 for stuff that I've like found and like put together. Like, you may not get it all in one package.
Yeah.
People are lazy, dude. I'll build an actual, almost like a mini business to like, just for like my editing department, just for like, I've hired like 3 editors that one will just do the cuts, one will just do these, one will just like, so I've built these teams. So where you can make up for lack of funds with work ethic, right? Whether you have to like, I've driven Uber and Lyft, like, people in Scottsdale, if you see me, like, you know, like, not right now, but like, you know, I used to pay more, but like, I would do that outside of an episode. I would leverage credit. I would leverage like really good low cost outsource work. If you're creative, you can do it. And then obviously I haven't done as many episodes, because if I did, it would be more money. So yeah, you gotta, like, you know, pace yourself.
Yeah.
And that's why I've done less episodes. But now that I'm getting more episodes done, I have a little bit more cash. I'm more used to it. I know what I'm doing. I'm willing to invest. I've got people who are willing to invest. I have someone who's probably trying to buy the show, which I won't sell, but like, people have asked, like, like what they're curious, kind of putting feelers out. So it means like in the future, it's probably worth some, like for now, if someone were to come up to me and say, I just want to buy everything you have, like content, name, rights for this show for like 150 grand, I'd be like, no way, dude.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it.
No.
Like, even if, and I've invested already like a good amount, but I wouldn't do it for 150. Like the people that I know, the associations, their names, like I whatever, I own the content, but also I still don't do release forms. Like the podcast guests could take their episode back. That's a risk you face when you don't do a release form. But at the end of the day, like, I'm not nervous because, like, why would they take it down if I'm making them look good?
Right. Yeah. For me, I'm like, this isn't anything that's bashful towards you, and
yeah.
So I'm like, this is kind of like a win-win for both of us. I'm not asking you if there's anything ever that's uncomfortable. Like, we'll talk about it afterwards, and I always reach out to them beforehand.
Yeah, yeah, and
like,
also
hey,
too, like, people can control. I guess there's like, I looked it up, and then they could control like the law of like, hey, like, I don't want that out. It makes my brand me. Like, even though they said it, they can take down their own content. So, I looked it up, like, and I was like, oh, okay, I have to do release forms. I haven't even thought of that yet because, like, we operate off of, like, good ethic and morals. We operate off of good trust. Like, and again, that's not something that I could say I did 12 years ago as a person. Like, I was, like, I was smoking and, driving and doing stupid stuff and just, like, being an idiot. My family's fine, here's this, like, that's the furthest I'll go into detail, but
yeah,
we were definitely dumb kids doing dumb stuff. We were messed up. Like, we were 16 throwing, like, we would do what's called water bombing, which is where you just get McDonald's water and you just literally chuck it. Like, at 40-degree weather, we chucked it at people, and it was so messed up, dude. Like, I feel
like
so
cars
bad.
and stuff.
No, like, just some, like, old lady walking down the street, just, like, chuck water. Like, why would you do that? In my defense, I'm not the one who threw it. I was the one driving, so I felt bad. But I was like, what are we doing again? And they're like, yeah, we're going to I'm like, man. So it's like everybody makes mistakes, does stupid shit. That's like what I was more like my last episode when we first recorded. I just kind of like went too deep into that. Like, I just think it's long term, like, because I had so many like things I was just thinking about, and I don't think I said it the right way. So I wanted to say things the right way.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's got things that, like, again, a lot of my like what you want to call so-called success of the show, which to me is just, I don't know if I ever see success. Like, I almost feel like I just keep doing stuff, and then if it works, it works. And like, I don't really want to define it as success because I don't like having a stop limit of when I'm successful. I kind of just feel like I got to keep doing stuff. But I never would have like been there if I didn't just put my past in my past and build my future to who I want to be and be the person I want to be and the things I want to do. It's like, and then again, go back to like that same theme of like what I said before. It's like people online, you just kind of get this, a part of you will get this when you start to like really post and stuff. You'll get this, like, just people online will say things and just do negative stuff, and you could just get into like the wrong mindset quickly.
Yeah.
I just started, like, the more you do this, the more calloused you are of like, people are just gonna like, if you get super big, that's when you have to worry about it. I've luckily only had support. But at some point, there could be haters at any level
that have nothing better to do than just sit behind their thing, like, oh, this guy's a fat ass.
Yeah.
Just talk shit about you.
Yeah,
the whole
and people
time.
will say all kinds of stuff, but it's like you almost just really realize, like, I spend so little time on any kind of negativity now. My life used to be consumed with like, I'm worried about this, or this person is a narcissist. Like, why are you near them then? Like,
yeah,
if you're gonna call somebody that, like, be actionable with your words. Like, if you really feel like that way, then don't be near that person because that's your responsibility.
Yeah.
Like, you're creating your own problems, but you're blaming everybody else. Don't do that, right? Like, that's not how you live life to the fullest. So for sure, take responsibility, be the best person that you can be. Your standard and moral should be high, and like, don't have a certain definition of yourself. Just constantly be evolving. Those are like things that we do. we're working on brand, this, that, brand deal, whatever. Like, I have to be responsible. Cool. Like, that's what I'll do. But am I going to, like, censor myself to be, like, whatever, like, sponsored newscast, like, off a script? No, I won't do that either. So it's like I got, like, a balance of, like, where I want to be. And I know that more now, especially doing more of this. And you got to get to that level, or you're at that level where you'll just, I mean, as a person, that's a personal thing. But I mean, like, at a professional thing, like, maybe you're already there, and maybe you just are asking about the specific podcast related stuff. But like, anything you do, anybody listening, anything you do, you just have to, like, confront your own demons, like, fight your own, like, negative side, so that you take responsibility. You're only around and you create responsible ways of being and acting, and you build your life from there. Like, that's who the real person is of you. That's who you really are, and you go from those actions. Who's the real you inside? What is the real you inside gonna say about this or that or the other? What is the real you gonna do about it? Even better, because getting stuck into feeling a certain way sucks. Don't feel that way. Just get out of it. Like, do better actions, higher level, higher activity, higher elevation mindset, and get around those people. That's what we do. Like, and it helps us. Like, for me, it's almost like a addiction of, like, a vitamin, my daily vitamin. I'm around people who are thinking at a higher level. So if I go to a lower level thinking, I'm around higher level thinking. It's impossible for me to, like, for like the next 72 hours, I can't have a negative thought, because I'm too pumped and amped, and I just did a pod, and I just did this. I feel great. It's like, cool. What are you going to do next? Because you can't just sit at that level and feel awesome and not do the next step, because then you're just a hypocrite. You're just a guy who says, I'm going to do big things, and then you don't do them. And then you lose respect, and you lose, like, this, and you feel like a failure. And life just goes, like, in a circle. You want to get out of that circle, you got to push yourself to, like, take action, and you better feel the pain, a pain or a greater pain, of whether you feel something is worth taking action, or do you need to take it to, like, do you really need to push yourself even more, put yourself in a more uncomfortable situation, and that will make you take action. But that's, like, some of the keys for anything. Luckily, podcasting, you learn from everybody, and you just kind of get this generalistic advice. It's, like, cool. Like, it's great, because you could just apply it to how you're going to apply this set of advice to what you're doing.
So with your podcast, you've been able to kind of, like, make a business and stuff out of it, or at least make some sort of money.
Some.
At what threshold did you think it was the time for you to start looking at making money
monetization with it? I mean, I would say, and do anything for, like, a year without any expectation of results.
Yeah.
Because if you can't stick to it for a year, like, that's not even, like, baby level. But
I don't think, like, the quality would even be there to make, like, it monetizable.
What are you gonna do, right? And then for your, like, even then, quality trumps and speed trumps, like, business loves speed. So you don't know what you can make money off of. You'd be surprised. Like, I'm a podcaster, but then I started doing cameos, like, or I started doing, like, user generated. Like, I've made money off user generated content. Somebody's like, hey, there's a company called Source, and you can look them up. I have 2.7 million views on that video, and it's not even me. It's they put my face on their ad through my podcast.
Really?
Yeah, I'll show you it. And you could maybe, like, put a pop up or something. But Source, they have this video, and I don't know if we have enough, but we'll do this. I gotta go soon.
Yeah.
We did this, and check this out. This is hilarious.
So is the podcast now a full-time thing for you, or is it still just a part-time?
It's like slow. It's like this year we're going to be, like, more probably full-time this year. But this year we're also implementing all the strategies. I got high-level guys that I know that are, like, really interested in, like, they're like, hey, here's what we can do to, like, boost your income. Here's what we can do to, like they're, like, calling me and saying, hey, like, I see potential. Like, I would love to be a part of it. Like, you'll get those calls when you get to that point. So, dude, sometimes you just got to walk by faith, not by sight, and just push yourself, But, like this, for example, I don't know if this will load. If it won't load, I'll show you after. I just have to send it to you.
We're in like a huge concrete room almost.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the service
Okay,
will be good in here.
I'll show you after.
Yeah. Yeah, just show me
But
after.
yeah, I'll show you after. But like, there's a video of me, my buddy Adrian, got like 2.7 views, and it's just me user generated content. What does that mean? It means I'm gonna do something to promote. So I'm like, hey, how are you growing? Like, or he goes, how are you growing your podcast? And I was like, I'm just using source.com and blah blah blah. And like, they cut that, and I got that film, and I gave it to them, and I was like, here, like, I'll, and then I'll just charge them, and then that's what they. But like that content, I'm not doing it every day, but like, content creators have to think like, what can you do?
Right.
And then also too, don't think like a content creator, think like a business. And then being a business, I thought about it like what we do also is like I already have a background in like sales outreach, like booking appointments for people. So we'll just do like 50,000 emails. Like I have an audience of guys who are all doing, making 100 grand and up. Like all the guys who watch my show, like a lot of them are doing really well. Like they're doing big things. They've got 200 grand sales job, 150 grand, whatever. I'm a personal coach that makes, and they're doing good. They're doing like 10, 20 grand a month. It's like, okay, well, what can I do to help them?
Yeah. And
I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, so we had like 50,000 emails. I'll send 50,000 emails, book you probably 50 or so, hot leads, and like 25 appointments or 20. What is 20 sales meetings? For somebody who can sell 2 deals, if it's worth $20, nothing, like $40. But if it's worth like $2,000 a deal, it's like $4,000. It's like I can make you back, or actually you'd have to make more than that. But like you wouldn't sell 2 deals off 20. Like you'd sell like 5 or 6. Like that'd be like 10K. So you'd make like, what's your 5K worth? 10K. And that's in the first month. That's not on all the follow-ups. Like, or we'll do like automated, like I have a guy that's like automated Twitter messaging, automated this, like automated DMs, stuff like that. That's just like, and it's not stuff that we have burner accounts. Like if it gets banned, we're like, whatever, we'll just get a new one. Like we're like responsible. We're not gonna, because there's AI tools out there that are promised they'll get you more followers on Instagram, and then you use them and then you lose your account. That sucks.
Oh yeah, well all they do is they literally just mass follow, unfollow, and do
well,
all
those
that.
are the old ones. The new ones are mass liking your stories.
Oh really?
They're liking your story, and then they don't follow you, and then they might follow you, but like it mimics, like it's AI, so it'll look like someone's interacting with your stuff.
So is it like a fake account that likes your content?
No, it's a real account. They plug it to their real. If they're crazy, they plug it to their real account, which means that they don't care about their account. So they've got like a bunch of stuff, and that video right there got like 2.7 million right there.
Damn, okay.
So like my face has been around.
Yeah, there you go.
No, and then that's like just promo, man. Just like,
yeah.
And sometimes like we haven't even gotten official sponsors, like drink sponsor or whatever. Like a lot of podcasts will have like a drink sponsor. That'll be cool. I would love for oxygen water. What are they called? These like O2, like they have like like lime cherry, whatever.
Oh
like
yeah.
Really cool, like oxygen, like it's like an oxygen drink / like not water. It's like oxygenated like recovery drinks. Those are sick.
That sounds good.
Those are sick. Yeah, those make me feel amazing. But yeah, man, you just gotta like put feelers out there, and you just gotta do more in less time. Yeah. Really, you gotta experiment with everything. And if you like, let's say you reached out to like 100 people in a year, like you'd have 100 chances. Like it's better than like reaching out to 2 people. At the same time, you also want to make sure what you're reaching out to, the quality, what you're saying, what you're presenting, what you're offering is really good. Because nobody wants to fail 99% of the time. So try to like, don't waste too much energy on like, find the right audience, find the right message, connect it, and you'll win 9 out of 10 times rather than like 1 out of 100 times.
Yeah.
So and success begets success, but failure, it's tough, because if you fail and all you know is failure, it's really hard to change your mindset from failing to winning. So you really want to get to like a winner's mindset in something. Win at something small, and it's better to grow from there than to lose at something big constantly, and then you feel like you're a failure, and then your brain is like confused, and your body, and then there's all this like psychoanalytic stuff that some other expert could talk about that's going to basically say you're feel like a failure. It's like, why do I feel like a failure? Because you haven't managed your expectation, but at the same time, you haven't probably done enough effort. Like, there's so many things that gurus say that are too blanket, like the blanket statements. Like, oh, you're not, like, you just fail and fail. It's like, or you just gotta like keep failing. It's like, dude, sometimes that's not enough. You can't just keep failing. You also have to like check your results, make some adjustments, fix your plan.
Figure out why you're failing.
Yeah, because if you just keep going blindly, you're just gonna be like hitting your head against the wall. Like, that's not the easiest way to break down walls. Like, find ways to do better.
Right.
Find ways to. So you've got to be creative. That's how you're gonna make the biggest impact in the business side. Is you got to be creative. You got to be willing to do what it takes. That's that'll help.
Absolutely. Well, Shaquil, I definitely appreciate you coming on again, kind of sharing a lot more wisdom. It's awesome to see that the growth that
local
you've had in
podcasters,
yours.
gotta stay connected.
And I've gotten to see a lot of growth from your show, especially like in the guests that you've had on and just the quality and everything. Like, it's definitely going, and I'm proud to see a fellow podcaster that has the right mindset about it and is growing like that, takes it seriously, because that's one of the first things when I tell people I do podcasts, they have like that look like, oh, another one of these guys, and I'm like, well, there's a difference. They take it, or they don't take it seriously. I take it seriously.
Yeah. There's very few you'll see that get like whatever his name is said like 20% get past like episode 10.
Yeah.
Like 10% or 5% get past episode
and their
25.
thing changes the second I say like, oh, I'm 50 episodes deep almost, and they're like, oh, okay, because they're used to like, oh, well, I want to start a podcast, right? I've like released like episode 1 or 2, like pilot episode or whatever. But
for podcasters, get past episode 50, 100 as soon as you can.
Yeah,
that's the only way you're really going to be taken seriously. Like, even my guys that I'm trying to get, they're like, what episode? And I'm like, 25, 30,
I'm like, you still got a little bit to go.
Yeah,
like,
I still have a long way.
If you were a YouTuber talking to Mr. Beast, he even said on his thing, like, don't even say anything until you've filmed at least 100 videos.
Yeah.
And learn from each one. Then we can start talking about
and it is 100% right. And, like, honestly, if you're in those first 100, enjoy the process.
Yeah.
Don't be like, oh, I'm not at 100. It's like, dude, I'm like so confident by the time I get to 100 that like I won't even need the 100. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm so confident by the time I get to 100 that you will know my name.
The
like,
skill is up there.
Like everything,
up there,
but at my rate, though I'm going, the way by the time I get to 100, it's gonna be like a full studio. I'm gonna have like everything. Like I really do believe like this thing might get bigger than even I'm anticipating. But like if not, like I don't care. Like I don't want to be famous, but like there's a huge potential for that.
Absolutely.
And I don't really want to like be that guy. I don't. I just don't. I don't want to be like it's me. Like I really just wanted to empower, bring others up. I'd want to be like a host, like kind of like that guy that's famous, but you don't really know. Like, okay, he's kind of, and you look into him, and then you're like, oh, that's respect. But like you don't like, he's not like, I'm the front of the camera. Like I'm not that guy. I'm like second, or like I'm like the second guy that you'll know that like does the back end stuff,
right?
But also like could be the main character, just doesn't really want to be the main character, because it's like the main character usually is the one that gets first one that gets shot. It's like I'm not trying to have that like target. Like somebody else could take the pressure.
I would rather, principal character, maybe not.
Yeah, like I'd like to be like a supporting actor.
Yeah,
right. Like I don't want to be the main character. It's just a lot of stress. Like that wasn't my goal with this, anyways. Yeah. So and luckily we talk about positive and negative hates, like they scatter. They're like roaches with positive.
I think that's the best thing about us doing stuff with guests, because obviously there's a lot of podcasters that do solo episodes, and while I'm totally for it and I definitely want to do some, it kind of makes it to where they are the main character of that episode. You're still the secondary character. You give them all of the accolades and stuff. It's not about you. It's about them. It's still your show.
That's why I love
them.
What I do. People say I should talk more and put my character and personality more, because they're like, it's your show. You need to like put your character. But I have a genuine love of like letting others shine. Like, on my show, that's what I want.
It's their story that's being told, not yours.
Yeah, and that's cool with me, because I have my own personal brand I'm growing, and like we'll have to talk, and I'll show you what I'm doing there. But like I'm doing all that stuff, and it is what it is. So
heck yeah, man. Well, I definitely appreciate it. We'll have to do a part 3 at some point when
Kicking Ass Takin Names podcast. Take a look at it as well. We've got some really great.
You're on YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube, Instagram, and then we're plugging in all of the Spotify everything for season 2. So we're just packing up season 1, getting season 2 actually rolling right now.
Heck yeah.
So within a few weeks, we'll have everything
So
uploaded.
check it out, Ass Takin Names podcasts for those who love entrepreneurial stuff, real estate stuff, MMA, pretty much all of that. Go check it out.
It's really
awesome
a mindset,
stuff.
yeah. It's really all about mindset. So
yeah.
if you like anything I talked about, that's what we do. We talk
yeah.
about.
Well, thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Appreciate it.